Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WOW Summit. We're glad you could all join us today. Today, we'll be discussing how cross-industry insights around AI and how it can be used with the customer. You've already been introduced to my fabulous panel over here, and I will be taking us through. In terms of cross-industry insights, in what ways can we learn from different industries, the experiences that they've had with AI, and in what way can we partner with different industries? I'm going to direct this question first to Billy. What is your opinion?
Hi, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. So I think cross-industry definitely gives us a lot of insight from an insurance company perspective. So two things. Number one, we learn from each other. So one of the things that we learn from retail industry is how do they leverage on their data to provide personal recommendations, right? So it's something like this that we learn and apply for insurance company specifically. So we learn from the retail data, apply it to our customer data, and provide personalized product recommendation for our customers. And other cross-industry collaborations that we recently work on is we work together with the healthcare industry because they have a lot of data and knowledge such as diagnosis, medical terms and conditions, drug and prescriptions. All these data are very valuable for us in terms of offering claims for our customers, providing better underwriting services for our customers as well. And very recently, one of the AI solutions that we leverage on is when a customer provides them with their medical bill. So we use OCR to extract that information, right, from the image to text. And we use AI to basically structurize this data into metadata. And then we apply metadata tagging, right, and filtering, so that we have these information on hand. And we work collaboratively with cross-industry partner, feed this information to their large language model, which are pretty much medical terms specific, so that we can leverage on these and facilitate a smoother claims process for customers to basically shorten the customer claim cycle. Traditionally, we will take about 3 days to process a claims. Now we take less than a day to do so. So this is one of the cross-industry collaboration that we did for Prudential.
So we already see that cross-industries are allowing us to be more efficient and effective and offer better services to customers. I also want to open it up to Andrew to find out how Cathay Pacific has been leveraging cross-industry opportunities.
Thanks, Candice. So we're in a fortunate position where we operate across both the travel industry, obviously, but we also have a loyalty program, and that has lots of partnership opportunities within it. So there's maybe a couple of different areas to think about how we think about kind of cross-industry collaboration. So in the travel space, I think one of the obvious ones for us would be retail media, how we use data for targeting, not just in our own acquisition of customers and how we think about how we do pricing curves, how we do customer targeting, but also how we might think about selling retail ad space across our entire network, including into the aircraft itself. So how do we take customer profiles and target data and create a bespoke ad experience right in the seat back of the in-flight entertainment system. So that's one area where we can really draw a lot of that cross-industry collaboration. Other areas, we have finance partners, for example, in our loyalty program, working with them and understanding consumer spending habits, whether that's through their overseas spending, their local spending and their preferences, again, helps us build better models for how we target and how we provide the right kinds of offers to customers, and informs our proposition design as well. How do we want to develop our propositions based on how we understand our key customer segments? And then maybe the last example would be directly with our own partners in inventory with regards to things like hotel distribution. So we're not necessarily an expert at building like an OTA or a company like an Expedia, but we can leverage a lot of what they're doing in their algorithmic recommendations so that when a customer completes a purchase from us and we're able to pass certain signals back to a company like Expedia, then they can make the best recommendation offers and we can generate that ancillary sale to help the customer get the benefit that they want. So I think just a number of kind of key examples of how we might collaborate across different bits of the industry.
So we're on this AI journey, and it also comes down to how are we implementing AI? And I'd like to ask Sony, what are the most significant challenges that you are seeing at IBM in terms of implementing customer data and AI initiatives?
Sure. Thanks, Candice. So I think in the past 2 years, we saw no lack of enthusiasm in the enterprises to adopt AI technologies, and that is really in the format of a large volume of Gen AI or now agentic AI-based POCs. Common challenge we see where the indicator is when we see some of these POCs while proving the concept, but doesn't necessarily get to the valuable production deployments. I think the two key challenges that we saw was one is having an effective path to value. What it means is that whether it's actually really delivering the business outcome that the enterprise needs to the extent that it generates top-line revenue or takes out bottom-line cost. So I think that's one key challenge we saw. Some of the large volume of POCs doesn't get through. And second part of the challenge is really around how to effectively govern some of these AI deployments. So I think a lot of the traditional enterprise computing workloads existed in some of the more typical IT systems, applications, cloud, and digital. But when it comes to AI, there's new dimensions of challenges that you need to overcome, both in deploying responsible AI and also new formats of the models and different workflows, how you can actually effectively govern them to make sure it's safe, responsible, and ethical use. And also managing with a certain degree of accuracy. So I think these are another aspect of the challenge we see. So now, in order to kind of have a better path to value for AI, and also kind of effectively govern AI, a lot of the enterprises are starting to ask new questions around new operating model, right? Really extending the innovation pipeline into a enterprise-wide AI operating model that is a bit more structured in nature, and with a refreshed governance lens towards AI. And also new format of workforce engagement, and also reimagining the type of talents you need for the organization. So I think in the years to come, we will see a lot more enterprise transformation programs that look to tackle the question of how do we accelerate more targeted value creation with AI, and also how to govern the AI more effectively.
I'd also like to open it up to Martha and just get a different opinion on her experiences and what she's seen as challenges with implementing AI.
So for us at IQAX, so since we delve a lot with the shipping sector and the entire supply chain logistics sector, as you can imagine, in this industry, all the data is very fragmented. So we have carrier data, vessels, container, port, terminals, rail track, trucks. So these are all fragmented data, and they are in data silos. How are we going to be able to integrate all this data and to make sense of it? And also the trusted data policy, that's also another issue. How will you be able to trust these data? So what we've been doing is to collect all this data from all these different providers, and then we'll do data cleansing or using data warehouse to make sense of these data, to make them into structuralized data, and you can train your AI model after doing that. And also, as for the trusted data point, we also use blockchain technology. As you might know, in shipping industry, there's this thing called bill of lading. Traditionally, it's a paper contract, but now we use EBL, and it's right on the digital blockchain network. So everything is on the blockchain, so it's immutable, it's non-transferable, everything is recorded. And after that, getting the information from the EBL, we'll be able to use AI to do analysis and to provide that kind of decision for our client so they can make their own intelligent decision.
I also wanted to cover the customer. So the customer in the 21st century is very important to majority of businesses. As there is no customer, there's no business. How can organizations ensure that their AI strategies remain customer-centric? And what is the role of customer feedback, particularly with online channels, etc.? How is that data being used and feedback? Let's open it up back to Andrew. I'm sure you experienced a lot of this from Cathay Pacific.
Yeah, thanks. So I think I'll take this from two approaches. So one, like a lot of companies, we deploy chatbots to handle a lot of customer inquiries as a first line kind of triage and hopefully to answer a lot of questions. As we've kind of made this transition away from NLP-based structures around how we do our chatbots into much more of the a RAG-based chatbot where we're really relying on more generative responses. I think some of the risks around making sure that we remain customer-centric in these things actually fall back to the liabilities and the challenges around deploying these kinds of systems. So while everybody's frontline experience, everybody's experience of chatbots as a consumer, if you go out to a ChatGPT or a Claude or something like that, the responses tend to be very high quality, very fluid, and very lucid, and they're a great experience. And we don't mind so much when maybe the chatbot, one of those GPTs, is hallucinating a little bit, because we can go back and we can refine that if we understand what we're doing with it. The minute we deploy those kinds of that kind of infrastructure in front of customers, that math changes around where that liability sits and how sure are we that we can control for the hallucination aspects around what we might be telling a customer, and if we get that wrong, what the implications of that are. So to make sure that we remain kind of very customer-centric in this approach, is we have to do a great deal of testing around these things. We have to build our evals out very carefully. We have to build out a lot of infrastructure to manage the risk of how we think about making sure that we can provide a good experience to customers. And so while the technology provides, I think, a good future promise of experience for our customers, we may be a little bit more cautious in our speed to deploy it to make sure that we can mitigate some of those risks. I think the other area to really call out around how we make sure that we can bring customer feedback in I think, a concrete and interesting way, certainly into our product development pipelines, is at the start of this year, we deployed some real-time analytics capabilities across all of our kind of digital real estate. Now, part of what this capability does is it allows us to record in a completely PII compliant way. We can record a lot of consumer sessions so that we can understand how customers are actually interacting with our designs, with our interfaces, with our checkout flows, but more importantly, where they're struggling with those experiences. Now, like a lot of sites, what we also have are feedback mechanisms like survey tools and partners. And when customers are struggling, they often give us feedback directly onto those forms, but the feedback that they give us is maybe not very useful to us as managers and as product managers, because customers don't necessarily know how to explain in a great deal of detail what those issues really are. So using the technology that we have for our real-time analytics capabilities, we can now take a bit of customer feedback that's submitted through a form, and we can pull that all the way back to find the specific session that they may have been experiencing and the trouble that they were having. And we can use that to diagnose actually where they had a bad experience. But more than that is we're beginning to use that technology to then find all of the sessions that customers may be having, to then understand how big an impact this might be having. Is this a one-off, or is this something systematically that we weren't aware of? And is that maybe driving calls into a contact center, for example, that we didn't know how to do? And the interesting bit around the AI capability within there, apart from its ability to go and find these things, is we're using the AIs to summarize large quantities of this session data to feed it back to us in a way that's useful for the product managers to understand it. So rather than having to watch through maybe 10, 20 hours of data playback, we can get the AI to actually go through and really summarize what it's really good at doing and feed that back to us in a way that's now useful for our product teams, which we can then put back into roadmaps and hopefully resolve those issues. So I think this is just a good demonstration of how we can really at a more granular level take that AI capability around how customers are telling us something and then turn it into a much bigger opportunity for improving the overall customer experience.
It's interesting how we can reshape customer experience. I also want to raise the same question to Tan. What is your experience in your area?
Yeah, thank you, Candice. So I'm going to talk about this perspective a bit differently. The customers can obviously be external, but I think we also have internal customers within our organizations. So at Sempoa, what we do is we develop customized AI solutions for our clients. And so in one of our recent projects, a very large-scale commercial agriculture client approached us to develop a system that can help them track their production. Now, this is commercial agriculture, so it's not like an industrial setup where you can install sensors everywhere and have the data flow up. All the data points for the daily harvest had to be collected manually by the manpower on the ground, so it's painstaking. In this case, the customer were the supervisors who had to review this data that was coming in and to verify that today's production, today's harvest was accurate. Now, one thing that we immediately realized was that these supervisors had a lot of domain knowledge. They were experts at the harvest, at the operating of these commercial plantations. So we wanted to include them into this AI setup. And in our system, what we ended up building into it is a human-in-the-loop feedback. And what that means is that the AI model that we train is able to take all the images of the daily production and process it very quickly at scale and deliver a daily production tracking. Now, the supervisors can then come in and they are given the results of this tracking blind. So they don't know what the AI has done. And then they are asked to independently then produce a verification. Now, where we think that this is advantageous is that now you're marrying both the machine and the human together. And if the machine says that today we produce X, and the human says we produce X, then you can be doubly sure, absolutely certain that that data is accurate and of very high quality. I'll make another point here. Before deployment of this system, the scale of this challenge was so large that it would be impossible for a team of people to handle on a daily basis, right? But the supervisors were the first line. They had to every day verify that the harvest was coming in correct. One of the real big challenges is you've only got 2 eyeballs per person, and you've only got so much time a day to do this job before fatigue sets in, before you start making errors. So the quality of that verification isn't that confident, right? Now, with the machine, what we can now do is within the first hour of the day, have all of that done, processed, all the results out there. So the human comes in now to do the high quality second level of job, which is to then verify via sample checks whether the machine did a correct job or not. And by marrying the two, the data integrity is a lot higher than it would be if it was only one system versus the other. And so I think where this really opens up an interesting opportunity is how do we use all these tools that we have, right, to gather this type of feedback to improve this joint function between machine, AI, and human, the customer. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we want to talk more about the real world impacts of AI. And obviously, it is transforming, and it's going to transform industries in ways we can't even imagine yet. I'd like to go and ask a few questions to Martha in terms of how do you see this transformational change happening, particularly in customer engagement or decision making within your organization?
Thank you for the question. So basically, we have implemented some solutions for OOCL and Costco shipping. So they have had the pain point of, as a shipping carrier, you have an estimated arrival date for your vessels. But how accurate are these? These are based on past data, estimated data, and to get that kind of a ETA. However, it's not the real case in real life scenario. So what we did is using digital twin technology as a base. So we did the vessel twin, container twin. We also did the terminal twin, typhoon twin, and we incorporated all the news information, like if there's war going on at Gaza, that will affect the Suez Canal. So with all these kind of data that we've retrieved from the digital twin technology, then we use our AI model to do analysis and to do prediction for a more accurate arrival date. The reason for that is because this all ties into port congestion. And depending on that, the ship owners, they can decide how fast and slow the vessels can be operating so they can save a lot of fuel in that sense as a cost saving for them. And on another note, we also have help a TCL. So they're a huge electronic manufacturing business in China, where they wanted to know the exact arrival date so they can do resource planning. So they will be able to allocate resources or the shipment, either is it coming from the Long Beach port or is it coming from New York? How is it going to be able to save them money in the long run? So it's all cost effectiveness for them. And what we did for them is a predictive model to be able to exactly track and trace their container, 50,000 of them every year exporting from China, using IoT technology and using AI technology to do analysis for them. So this, at the end of the day, we've saved them 35% in cost effectiveness in achieving this.
I'd also like to also see how it's transforming in the insurance industry. Maybe Billy can also just tell us the kind of transformation you're seeing from decision making or customer experience.
Yeah, thank you, Candice. So one of the key stakeholders for insurance companies is it's not just our shareholders, right? But it's our customers. So we would like to treat our customers very seriously. And one of the examples is basically every month our call center will receive 10,000, 100,000 of customer calls. Traditionally, these calls will be recorded for training purposes, for analytic purposes. But a lot of them will end up into a repository somewhere without being touched on. So we actually want to use this opportunity from every time a customer who calls us will give us some insight. So how can we turn this insight into actionable solution for our customers? So the first thing is we turn these calls, we apply the voice to text technology. So we turn this into text. And then we leverage on Gen AI to basically do several things. Number one, summarize this call for us. Number two, apply sentiment analysis for us so that we know how many calls are from the customers are coming in that are giving us positive feedback, or how many calls are giving us negative feedback that we should focus on. So once we have that, we can then sort it out and really sort of see why are the customer calling us, right? And then we also feed this information back to our unified data platform so that we can do a better deep dive of actually who this customer is, why is this customer calling us, what's the last time they interact with us, and then we can do a better analysis and apply solution for them. And one of the examples is very recently, I believe it was around March or April, a lot of the customers actually call us, and before AI, we couldn't quite pick up the insight. But with AI, we actually found out that they call us because they were filing the tax return, and they need to basically find out from the insurance invoice so that they can understand what's their contribution for the VHIS, so they can file the tax return and get the tax reduction. And they have that difficulty finding this information online, but with this information, we can feed it back to our UI and UX team so they can improve the journey for them, for customers to find these informations, which help them ultimately to file the tax return.
A lot of companies are implementing AI, but executives want to see how do they know if AI is successful? What are the key metrics that an executive team can use as KPIs that they can see whether the implementation of AI is actually working? And what initiatives and customer analysis, and how do you communicate these to stakeholders? I'm actually going to give it to Tan first, and then we'll give it to Sony afterwards.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. In quite a few of the client interactions that we have, there's one observation that tends to stick. Management that is exposed to ideas about AI tend to be very bullish, and the staff, the rank and file, are often quite skeptical that anything can be done. In fact, we've also been approached before to say, hey, can you guys come up with a turnkey solution where the AI model can just take over all the planning for our entire operations, right? Like God mode. And, you know, I think there's a sense of reality that we try to impart. So one thing that we excel in, so we are ex-traders, right? And we are now using our expertise in data, because data to us was our entire careers. Good data versus bad data makes the trade, right? You're gonna win or lose based on how your data is. So when we approach our clients, the first thing we do is offer them a data and a process deep dive to then sketch out what kind of data do they have, what type of customized solutions can be crafted from the available data. Now, one thing we say to our clients a lot, and to the point about KPIs, you know, there's a lot that can be achieved, but the one thing that you know, we get called in because management obviously feels that there is some kind of bottleneck. Maybe they can't quite articulate what that bottleneck is exactly, right? So that's where we come in. So the KPI, one of the best KPIs that we found that's the most convincing is time saved. Now I'll go back to my last example about the production tracking. In that case, our model was accomplishing in the first hour of business what would take a team of about 40 full-time staff an entire day to match, right? So immediately the results are tangible and measurable in terms of time saved. But more so than that, that frees up a lot of valuable resources to go and do stuff that is a lot more high quality. Now that isn't to say that we don't have to meet other KPIs. So obviously we have to also achieve some of the more conventional metrics, some of the more conventional machine learning metrics, right? In this case, our model had to be way above 90% in accuracy. But some of these metrics are not that tangible. It's a bit abstract, but time saved is one that's very easy for everyone across the board to understand. So in that sense, we converted some of that skepticism into belief that this could work, right? We've also incorporated them, as I mentioned, in the human in the loop feedback, so that we've integrated them into this AI system so that they can see, and that collectively builds trust. I think I'll say one last point about this, which is that there's a lot of talk that AI will go on and displace a lot of labor. And I don't necessarily believe that's true. I think where this gives us the opportunity is to look for ways where AI takes out a lot of menial jobs so that labor can move up that value chain to do more interesting and value-added stuff. If I were to give you an example to part, think about Apple and the manufacturing revolution, right? Apple is worth trillions of dollars because it shed the menial job of manufacturing to move up that value chain to focus on design and focus on marketing. And I think that is the opportunity that we have here. right? Thank you.
Let's move to Sony and see his opinion from IBM's perspective.
Sure. So I think when it comes to enterprise adoption of AI on the path of value creation, I think the common components of the value framework really consist of both the more monetary aspect and some of the softer factors. So you can imagine revenue, cost takeouts, and also some of the end user, customer and channel engagement. And when it comes to some of the internal factors, you can think about, because unlike some of the other applied innovations, I think AI is bringing substantial changes to the workplace. So we're also looking at some of the workforce engagement rate and some of the employee satisfaction aspects as well. So that kind of makes up the total value framework of enterprise AI adoption. So I think if I could give you some examples, great examples of value creation and some of the anti-examples, I think some of the things we tend to advise against nowadays is that, for example, I think a few years back, at the earlier stages of experimenting with Gen AI, we saw some enterprises really just looking to pour in a lot of their data and kind of all kinds of things into the AI model, and then create some prompt-based experiences for their employees and see what kind of value it generates. But that, in the context of value framework, what it did was it may have accelerated or changed some of the knowledge work, but it didn't substantially help them reimagine their enterprise workflow. Hence, the value creation from a revenue and cost perspective was very contained. But on the other hand, we all know some of these models and data infrastructure does become very expensive to host with a certain volume. So then it became a very difficult value equation from a value creation perspective. Some good example we saw, for example, in the sports and entertainment industries. I think some of you may follow US Open. They just concluded last weekend, and then we also done similar work with US Masters. So in the sports entertainment world, we saw a lot of limited resources on the media coverage. You can imagine some of these sports events have hundreds of athletes, participants, and you have audiences that come from all over the world that have different language preferences when consuming media content. So in the past, it was simply not feasible to provide full coverage in every language to every single match and the athletes. But now, thanks to AI, it's actually very much feasible. We can generate AI-based sports analytics, commentaries, and we can instantly scale that to multilingual leveraging AI. And this is not necessarily taking out some of the existing costs in the media ops, but it's actually generating whole new formats of user engagement, audience engagement, and also translating to sponsorship revenue from the organizer's perspective in a way that leverages AI. And from a technical perspective, it's actually much easier to build evals and monitoring mechanisms around the accuracy of the Gen AI output. So that became a very good example of value creation. So I think, so that's why nowadays we do encourage a lot of the enterprise to have a very early design around their value creation thesis of AI adoption. So that you can actually adopt the right pattern of application, and they will find out there are much more targeted efforts they can make in generating value.
Okay, well, we're coming to a close now, so I'm going to end off on what are the future trends that we are seeing with AI, and I'm going to go through each of our panelists to kind of get a nice understanding of where do they see the future and the profound impact of AI on customer analysis. Let's start with Sony and work our way down.
Sure. So I think for myself, I think the biggest trend will really be the agentic and autonomous AI applied in the enterprise context, because that's what really powers how a lot of us as consumer or citizens experience the world around us. So I think the agentic and autonomous AI will really empower some very differentiated customer experiences with hyper-personalization. And then we're also going to see some hyper-automation in a lot of the industries that's going to make things more efficient, drive lots of productivity. And we're going to see a lot more efficiency coming from real-time intelligence and operational interventions coming from AI to generate the productivity.
Yeah, I agree with all of those things. I think from our perspective, maybe I'll just put a little bit of a twist on this one then, which is to say that in the travel space, I think when people talk about the AI use cases, travel always comes up as one of the key ones around itinerary planning and trip planning, and then all the way through to being able to book quite complex journeys, all autonomously. So we're really on the lookout for how consumer behavior is going to change over the next few years, and really understand how we can participate in that and what that means for our business and what the economics of the business are going to be going forward. So I think those agentic capabilities are going to be interesting in terms of where do they sit? Is it really going to sit with the foundation models and their capabilities? Which are the experiences or which are the capabilities that we want to bring back into our own real estate, and where do we think we can add value in a way that those models can't, through, I think, quite niche domain level kind of understanding. And that will, I think, really shape where we will think about our investments around both just the data modeling that we need, as well as in the experience and the interface layers that we want to put in front of customers, and how those are going to change over the next few years.
Yes, I will have to agree with Sonny and Andrew as well. I think that AI, the agentic AI and the autonomous is going to be one of the big hits. For insurance industry, as I mentioned earlier, we can see AI agents being applied into multiple areas. Each of these AI agents working together. Taking claims for an example, we could see an AI agent validating the claims submitted by customers. Another AI agents, are seeing cross-referencing the eligibilities or what's being covered by the insurance plan. And another AI agent, evaluating and making a decision. Another AI agent making the paying out, doing the payment for the customers. Another AI agents doing the communications to the customers, letting him or her know about the claims results, right? We can see all these agents talking, working on with each another autonomously with minimal human in the loop. Just the whole thing offering a straight-through processing for our customers.
So I agree with all three gentlemen over here. And but I also want to add that I think for shipping industry specifically, decentralized AI might be a way to go, because the data is so sensitive to each party, and they all belong to a different party in the whole supply chain, right? So they're not going to be willing to share the data to train the AI model or train up the AI. So using the decentralized AI, they will be able to train on their own premises locally, and then just shoot up the parameters, and there's no raw data to be shared. And also incorporating the blockchain technology, you can be able to trace and track the source of the data. And every time when someone goes and update the training model, you'll be able to have a record of that. So I think for the shipping industry, decentralized AI might be a way to go from now on.
Yeah, Martha took my point about decentralized AI, but I'm going to go a bit left field as well. We were in this pretty interesting debate the other day with a prospective client. We said to him, with all of this agentic AI right now, we're pretty confident that you could achieve what a entry-level, a low-level analyst could do, right, with all the tools available. And he went one step further up the ante on us, and he said, no, I think we can achieve what a mid-level analyst is going to be able to do with the AI tools we got now. And certainly what AI has done is to be able to put large amounts of data into the hands of decision makers really quickly and really accurately. But I think this is the trend, and I don't think there's an answer for it, but something for everyone to think about. For the decision makers to become decision makers, we all started first as entry-level workers, and we accumulated experiences to become people who knew how to make decisions. Now, if we take this layer of work away, I think in the next few years, we really have to have a think about how we're going to reskill the new workers, the entry-level jobs, right? The fresh graduates coming into the workforce, because we still need to empower them with the kind of know-how that later on in their careers, they'll be able to make important decisions. We've now given them all the data to help them with it. But I think there's a question on skills retraining that will need to be answered.
And And with that, I'm going to bring it to a close. I'd like to thank all my panel members for your opinions and your knowledge. And thank you to our audience for listening to us today.
Amazing. Thank you.